Throwback. Yo. Question. If Jesus came back as a homeless man, would you fuck with him or would you ignore the hand? Shout out 1440 Top. Everybody see what's happening. Hip hop, and not just hip hop, but music is transforming right before your very eyes. So let's talk about music for a second and the evolution of consciousness within music, because it's been a long time coming. These things move in cycles, just like damn near everything else. So if we go back to the origins of hip hop, what is it? You could arguably say it was the blues era or early jazz with swing jazz and all these kind of acts who would pour their soul into the music. Maybe it'll be through playing an instrument. It might be the guitar. It might be a saxophone. It might just be their voice and their vocal inflection, right? It might be singing. A lot of people will attribute the origins of hip hop to that party that happened in New York. I don't want to misquote. I think it was Brooklyn in the late 70s. It sprung up a whole movement behind it. All right. So let's take a step back before the 70s, or before that actual inception into the 70s, say the late 60s, early 70s, where soul music was the thing. I'm a big fan of soul music. You might notice it in my beat selection. You might notice it in, some of the things that I tend to talk about, some of my melodies. But even just like, if I'm alone by myself, or even now, like with my family, my kids and stuff like that, I'll put them on to some of that old 70s soul music, some Stylistics, some Curtis Mayfield, some, all that kind of stuff. What's up? And interestingly enough, one of the major driving forces behind soul music, meaning the pen behind it, was Dr. Malachi York. Now that name's been buzzing quite a bit recently because of certain things we've seen from 1440 Ty and how he blew up and took the whole world by storm to where everyone had to pay attention to it. But not only that, they had to hear the name Dr. Malachi York. And then you have those like, well, really not many else like him, like Faise One, who has been pushing that line for well over a decade, like a decade and a half, putting himself on the line to put that name out there. So if you want to know who Malachi York is, you can tap on my, just go ahead and subscribe. After we finish this talk, you can tap on my channel, go to lives, and you'll see that I have a live on there where I discussed them at length. And I will again at some point, but it's not the topic of the discussion right now. So one thing that a lot of people don't know, back to this evolution of hip hop and music and consciousness, is that Dr. Malachi York wrote some of everybody's favorite soul songs during that era. I mean, he was behind many, many different acts. He was an incredibly prolific songwriter. So with those funds, obviously making the right investments and, putting things together the right way, he was able to build a land called AMURAI, where they built 2 pyramids, a sundial. They had a temple, and they were about to build an Egyptian-themed amusement park, and had essentially just secured enough land to make AMURAI an entire county. Now I'm talking, this is a place where hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of people came through in a short period of time, maybe 10 years or so, and were able to have their kids run freely, without having to worry about holding their hand. Everyone was helping each other, everyone was teaching each other. People lived in peace and prosperity. Sounds a bit like heaven on earth. But unfortunately, with us being here on earth, of course, there's going to be those that are devils that will do what they can to thwart that. So, alas, main point I'm making with this particular moment is Dr. Malachi Z. York was one of the primary components and pins and driving forces behind the soul era, soul music. All those good oldies. Okay, cool. So let's fast forward 20 years to the 90s. Hip hop is in full force, full swing. And then all of a sudden you have people like Nas pop out. You have people like Erykah Badu. You have Outkast and Andre 3000 from Outkast. You have Music Soul Child. You have Lauryn Hill. You have India Ari. All these beautiful, soulful acts, whether they were rapping or whether they were singing, they were putting something new into the air that was, quite frankly, it was lacking from hip hop. Because, it already has started to shift to where people are talking about gang banging and drugs and, shooting people and all that kind of stuff. Not quite as bad as it is right now, but it started to shift. So then you see this neo soul movement come out, right? Where, these incredible artists like those I named and several others, they started pushing this new line. They started pushing positivity. They started pushing higher levels of consciousness. They started pushing awareness. They wouldn't be afraid to discuss social issues. They wouldn't be afraid to get out there and touch the people. And yet again, guess who was one of the driving forces behind this particular movement? Dr. Malachi Z. York. All those people that I named before were students of Dr. Malachi Z. York. They were what you call Nawapians. They had either visited the land or maybe they met him in Brooklyn. Even people like Prodigy from Mobb Deep. If you pull up some of his videos on YouTube where he's talking in interviews, he's saying how somebody handed him one of Dr. York's scrolls, one of his books, and it essentially changed his life because it opened his mind to a lot of different things that were going on in this reality. Now, mind you, Dr. Malachi Z. York, from what I've seen, he's written over 1,000 books, perhaps 1,500. He has thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of lectures out on the internet. All you got to do is search Dr. York teaching or Dr. York speaks or anything like that. And you'll find him teaching basically any subject. You could type in anything, any religion. You could type in his name in that religion. He's talking for hours on end about it. And he's not just talking, he's actually presenting the truth. And he has this phrase where he says, don't believe me, go check it out. Because he didn't want anybody to just believe him. He essentially would help people to learn how to think more logically, not just taking something at face value, but actually going and researching the things that are being talked about so you can verify it for yourself, right? So this, as you can see, this ties hand in hand with this whole concept that sprung up in, the mid-90s, early 2000s, called conscious hip hop. Because it was a lot of the same principles being embedded in it. Why? Because they had a lot of the same influences. People like Jay-Z, they know who Dr. Malachi Z. York is. If you go back to some of Jay-Z's early music videos, I can't remember the song, but one of his earliest music videos, he has a picture of Dr. York, like a framed picture, and he's standing by some of the brothers that were walking with Dr. York in Brooklyn. And on it goes. So what we saw What's up, Ayumi? What we saw from that point, okay, some of these acts they kind of fizzled a little bit, so to speak. Some people will say, oh, they fell off. Lauryn Hill released The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill and didn't drop another album after that. So people pretty much, if they were fans of her, they had to listen to her work with the Fugees and that, and then maybe they slide over to Erykah Badu, and so on and so forth. What happened is, you notice, as you pay attention to the way the music industry works, they would start pushing more and more non-thinking music. Let's just call it that. Because what happened after that in the early 2000s? Well, the crunk era popped off. Lil Jon and the East Side Boys, D4L, Snap Your Fingers, all that shit. And then lo and behold, everyone starts partying and drinking and being focused on fornication and all this nonsense. Now, mind you, at this time, while this is going on, even just as a boy, I was, I don't know, maybe 14. No, maybe middle school, early high school, when that whole era started to take off. And I remember by the time I hit the 9th grade, I was like, okay, I'm not listening to rap anymore. Yes, I live in the hood, sure. Yes, most of the people that I grew up with are black. Okay, that's cool. But I got some white friends that are in my classes, because I was in, advanced classes at the time and through high school. And, they're listening to this heavy metal stuff. Let me hear some of this. Not the nonsense stuff. But, okay, there's one or two bands over here that actually speak of the message. They're actually speaking of persisting through difficult times and, all these kind of things. If you think I'm lying, you can go research the band Death. The name sounds scary, but after that first album, the writer and the lead vocalist would really, really have you thinking about reality and life. Very similar to certain things that are necessary and needed in hip-hop. He passed young, though. Anyway, so I completely checked out during the time where the crunk era was thriving. For that 4-year period, pretty much exclusively listened to just other music. I would explore other countries' music. I'm listening to fucking Icelandic folk pop. What the fuck is that even? And as I kind of start to continue through life, I start getting a little bit older. Girls are listening to Drake and Trey songs and all these things. So, all right, let me see what's going on here. Okay, let me see what's going on with rap now. Okay, it's 2009. Currency, Wiz Khalifa, Big Sean, Mac Miller. All these guys are starting to pop off now. It's like a whole new generation of it. Of course, Drake was starting to take off at the same time, too. But okay, now at this point, I'm like 19. I start smoking weed with friends. We're cruising, we're going to the beach because I live pretty close to the beach. And, just enjoying a good time. Then I get caught up in the party wave because it's kind of masked in a different way. But it was still putting me to sleep at the same time. So I remember there was even a couple-year period where, especially when I first started writing, and I kind of started writing poetry. I stopped talking to people. I wasn't engaging with people like at all. And I would just do yoga and practice martial arts and shit like that. This happened for like 3 years. There's people that thought I was dead. They're like putting up on Facebook, putting up posts saying, "Have you seen this man?" All this shit, because I just vanished, poof, and just started looking within myself and looking without myself, trying to find God, because it was needed. I felt that I needed it. So, we have this other wave of that. And then what happens after the early 2010s or so? Well, then we have this thing that pops up in Chicago and other places called drill music. Oh, shit. I didn't even know what the fuck drill music was until 2019. And mind you, I'd already been rapping for 5, 6 years at this point. But I literally didn't know what it meant. I was dealing with a girl and, making music at the time. And this might have been like 2016 or something like that. And she was like, you should hit a drill beat. Like, you can obviously take down the trap beats. That's no problem for you. You should do a drill beat. So I'm like, okay. I pull it up. I'm like, okay, this is a little bit different. Let me go at it. And then I do my usual thing on it. She's like, no, that's not it. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I slayed that shit. Lo and behold, there was a whole different intention behind that shit. That wasn't even like I was completely unaware. Now it's pretty clear what drill means, something that it rhymes with. And now that's just pervaded all through New York, through their culture, through the UK, all the way around. This Florida drill rappers, Atlanta drill rappers, fucking West Coast drill rappers, all that type of shit. And it's just a complete mess. It's nonsense. So yet again, people go back to sleep. Level of consciousness drops. Because people are hearing so much of it, they don't realize that they're literally being programmed by the repetition and neurolinguistic programming, or NLP, to where they only want that thing now. They only want drill music. It only sounds good if it's talking about sliding on ops. It only sounds good if it's talking about spinning the block. It only sounds good if it's talking about popping Molly's and Percocet. No. You are being programmed. So what's happened now? 1440 Top pops out, and he's saying certain things that some of us have been saying for quite some time, but he has been to catch the world by storm with this, and his delivery and his authenticity and just the directness of it, and the fact that he's homeless and he's out there and he's able to spit these kind of bars. So he just released another freestyle where he said, and we ain't fucking with killing music no more. That shit is dried out. Because it is. It's been dried out. That shit is dead. It's absolutely dead. Anybody that's really caught in that shit, like I remember sitting in the clubhouse room. This might have been like 2022 or 23. And, it was pretty late at night. It was maybe like 2 o'clock in the morning. I usually don't, even when I was on Clubhouse back then, usually wouldn't be on that damn late. And this was exactly why, because people started talking about music and this one guy started talking about drill music. And he starts going in. Like, this is a dude who usually would be trolling. He literally went in for like 20 minutes, much like I am right now, going against drill music. And he was talking about all the things that are so great with it. He was like, oh man, and this rapper here, this shit here, he said he did this, oh, that shit was hard. Like, I could literally hear this dude about to bust a fucking nut about goddamn people talking about killing. Like, what the fuck is wrong with him? No. That shit is dead. Ain't no more drill music. I posted on my TikTok, 3-4 months ago, and on Instagram, and little niggas wanted to argue with me about it. Saying like, oh, we're just trying to have fun. Killing is fun? Oh, okay, so you're a psychopath. You're a demon. You're a devil. Oh, we on demon time. You just scared. No, I'm not scared of niggas like that. Not one bit. Just like Ty say, I cut demons' heads off for a living. And I do. I've been doing that for quite some time. So, back to this evolution of consciousness and music. Now we're reaching this point of what we call in science critical mass, to where this last wave, I would even say drill music is much worse than like the gangster rap era in the 90s, NWA and the West Coast gangster shit and all that kind of stuff. New York gangster rap, all that. This drill shit is worse because it has young people out here thinking on this stuff and disrespecting people that passed and disrespecting their families, and I'm gonna do this on their grave and I'm gonna go spend on the funeral, all this fucking psychotic ass shit, to where, as you can see with the advent of this new phenomenon called 1440 top, you can see people are tired of it. How do you know this? Because people are actually listening and they're resonating with it. They been knew they were tired of drill. They just didn't have anything else to listen to because it's all the radio's playing. It's all these major platforms is playing. It's all everyone's trying to do. It's either drill or party. That's it. And that shit is washed. That shit is dead. So, interestingly enough, just like how we were just talking about in the soul era, and just how we were talking about in the neo-soul era, or conscious hip-hop era, the underlying factor behind this current wave, and mark my words, we're now at, like I said, a critical mass to where this whole game is about to shift. And there's going to be a lot of what you may call right now conscious rappers. Maybe it takes on another name, but there's going to be a lot of us that step forward to the forefront and get really loud about this shit. Let me cross the street. And the beautiful thing about this is it's right on time and it's right what the people want right at this moment. This is the moment where you're going to see just like that shift to soul music and, pouring out all those love songs and, the positivity and people wait the world go round, and just like that shift that you saw from gangster rap to conscious rap, there's a shift right now from drill music to something that is greater. And I get the feeling, just like how drill was compared to gangster rap, this next wave that's coming is going to be dozens, if not hundreds of times more powerful than conscious rap ever could have been. This is on a different level. Because for the first time in history, we hold the pen. Well, we've always held the pen, but we hold the pen and we know that you know that we hold the pen. We can build our own platforms. We can build our own audiences, just like some of y'all that are popping in and out of here listening. We can put our own messages into it instead of rehashing the same message that 50,000 other fucking songs did. We can speak on things that matter to us. We can make our own motions, our own movements. We can crowdfund certain things. A lot of this stuff wasn't possible even 3, 4, 5 years ago, let alone 10, 20 years ago. A lot of the tools that we have in hand, this shit with AI, all this, I'm telling you, a lot of y'all that utilize AI, and I'm telling you because I'm a practitioner, this rap shit is a side quest for me. Even though I'm like 9 or 10 albums deep, a lot of y'all out there that are using AI are using it completely wrong. You have no idea how much shit this can build and how high level this shit can help you build things. I'm not just talking about writing some post descriptions. I'm not just talking about some building a website or app, which I've done both of those. I'm not talking about doing research on viral trending videos. No, I'm talking about, let me stop. That's not the topic today. I'll just show you that part. So bottom line is, this current shift in momentum that we see, it's the same underlying force and factor behind it that we saw in soul music, that we saw in neo soul and conscious music. And what or who is that force? Who? H-U? Dr. Malachi Z. York. Because the first thing that Ta said before he started rapping was free Dr. Malachi Z. York. Now there's a free Dr. York challenge. Free Dr. Malachi York challenge. I don't even know what it is, but I'm with it. Things about the shifting ways that y'all never seen. There's so many things that people have been lied to and duped about. They do not even realize. Sometimes they don't want to realize it. Well, you're gonna have to realize it and look at it with your real eyes. All those real lies. Rest in peace to drill music. His next wave is up. Peace in the land is truly wonderful. I do, so I should. I do. Peace.